welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and this is the player ratings video for Everton's final match of the in America in the pre-season, a 2-2 draw away at Manchester United. Um, I think we were all probably expecting the worst going into this one, regardless of what you think of United and um, what you've made of their summer business. As it seems to be with every summer. With the signings they've made, the United fans seem to be all expecting them to be challenging for like Champions League places again next season. I'm still very much unconvinced by that idea. Um, and for all their hype, I feel like I can kind of see through it all a bit now. But regardless, obviously we're here to talk about Everton. Um, Given our form in pre-season, the fact we're still missing Brantford, um, I think we were probably all braced for a pretty flat performance and probably yet a third defeat in a row over in America. What we got instead, I was actually very impressed with, to be honest. I think for the majority of the game, I think we were the better side. We started very well indeed. We're very unlucky to go behind a very soft penalty, in my opinion. Put us behind. Our heads did seem to drop quite a bit after that, and United seemed to gain confidence, but we managed to get ourselves back into the game, which is rare. I think we've seen this so many times against United over the years, where we start off well, concede a goal, and suddenly they run away with it. But we fought back very well, I think, and obviously got a good equaliser for our time. They obviously retake the lead with a very nice goal, and we put it back level for a second time with obviously a very fortunate own goal. Um, but we had a lot more, I think, more clear-cut chances than they did throughout the game. We were a bit more luck and a bit more, if we showed a bit more clinical nature, I'd say, in front of goal, we probably would have won the game, I think, and been deserved winners. But regardless, we're going to go through, as usual, each player that started and give them an individual match rating. So starting with Jordan Pickford, who, as I say, I don't really think had too much to do, given United's, I think, lack of threat for most of the game. Um, Made a few good saves here and there, to be fair to him. I always feel Pickford comes across very well in these player rating videos, so I'm maybe a little harshly giving him just a 6 here. Because I think a lot of the time we're either really like under the cosh and he makes a number of saves and has a really good game, or he's quite quiet, um, depending on how we're playing, of course. And I really don't think he had that too much to do, honestly, from memory anyway. So I'm just going to give him a 6, I think. Keep it level a bit out a bit. Um, Moving on to the defence, Jake O'Brien, I was a lot more impressed with today. I think he's not had the best of times over in America, has he? But in a weird way, I actually think he looks a little more comfortable at right back now. He was getting into a lot of the right positions during the game. Was unlucky not to score at least once. Obviously, hit the post with the rebound from James Garner's free kick in the first half, which probably should have done better with, admittedly. But obviously, it's not really his game. You have a tiny bit of sympathy for him in that sense. Um, so yeah, I'll give Jake O'Brien a 7. I was impressed with him. Obviously, him being back out of right back was due to Tarkowski being back in the starting lineup after a time out with injury. He clearly wasn't fully fit, I think. For as soft as the penalty was, I don't think a fully fit Tarkowski even like makes any sort of challenge really in that sense. I think we had the situation basically under control. Um, and like I said, I don't think Tarkowski really did anything wrong specifically, but he maybe played into his hands a little bit by making contact with Diallo, which obviously was far too exaggerated in my opinion. Um, so yeah, I guess that probably plays into this a little bit, but like I say, it's quite hard to judge Tarkowski, I think, and maybe a bit unfair to judge him so strongly, given him clearly not being fully fit yet, just returning to full fitness and getting his match sharpness up. But I'll give him a 6 as well. Similar with Michael Keane next to him. He didn't have the worst game, but it's still clear that we're a lot weaker side without Brentford in, and we saw it for the first goal as well in the build up to it. As United broke clear and Tarkowski ended up giving the penalty away. Keane was caught too high up the pitch. He usually plays that Brentford role of trying to win the ball higher up the pitch, but is sometimes just not quick enough to do it. He's not nowhere near as athletic as Branthwaite is, and that cost us there. I think we were caught too high up the pitch, and suddenly they were found the space to play Diallo in. So yeah, that again probably plays on Keane's rating a bit too much, but otherwise, again, didn't have a ton to do based on United's lack of attacking threat and wasn't too noticeable at times, which is always a decent sign of at least a solid defensive performance. And then finally, Mikalenko, I'd say similar. Really didn't really notice him too much, if I'm being honest, but he mostly kept Diallo quiet, as I say, once again with the exception of the first goal. But we were kind of caught out a little bit there, which wasn't too much to do with Mikalenko, more to do with Michael Keane, as I've explained. So yeah, a seven for Mikalenko, I think is thoroughly fair enough. Then moving on to the midfield, obviously James Garner was probably, I'd say, the standout performer of this team, and obviously for a lot of people, I think they were probably pleasantly surprised with just how well he played. There's been a lot of criticism he's come in for of late. Obviously playing in a bit more of a sitting role, which does seem to suit him a little bit better, but I was really impressed with just how much he put himself about. And yeah, this role, as I say, just seems to suit him a bit further back, um, and able to and use the vision that we've seen before, and does seem a lot more impressive with set pieces now. As I say, I mentioned that one in the first half where he forces a good save out of the United goalkeeper. Um, and yeah, we don't usually play with a three-man midfield like this, but I think we really locked up United midfield, and the likes of Ugarte had a shocking game, and that definitely, I think us having three in midfield, having such a solid presence there, no one really like sitting further forward in the middle. Um, really worked in our favour, to be honest. So yeah, I'd give James Garner an eight. I'm also going to give both Tim Iwebunim and Idrissa Gay alongside him sevens. Iwebunim, I thought, had some very nice touches here and there, which we've known before. And obviously, the main criticism he comes in for is that he sometimes looks out of place and leaves gaps in the midfield. And I think having two, as I mentioned, like more defensive minded midfielders, if you will, next to him probably made that a lot less noticeable, I think, in this game. Um, so that's definitely something to be considered going forward this season, if indeed he is going to be involved as a backup, not so much a starter. And then just a game as usual, had a very solid game. Um, a little sloppy in possessions at time, gave the ball away a couple of times. I remember, especially in the first half, but obviously makes up for it with a very good assist for Ndai's goal just before half time. So yeah, I was impressed with Jessica as usual. Then moving further forward the pitch, Carlos Alcaraz is another one that as not the best of pre-seasons, it has to be said. Obviously, you have to take into account that he's probably not really playing in his more favoured central position, as most have been playing out on the right. He played more out on the right in this game too, and yeah, just hasn't looked at it as he. Um, Poor touches, not maybe not putting as much effort in as you'd like to see, and obviously you've got to take into account this is still just pre-season, and hopefully these issues can get readdressed once the season starts. Because I think he showed in the back end of last season, once he was on when he was on loan, that there was definitely a player in there. Um, Obviously, with Dewsbury Hall supposedly coming in now, I imagine that will probably maybe see him demoted to the bench mostly. I'd imagine Dewsbury Hall would be starting further forward and would be preferred to Alcaraz, I'm sure. Um, so yeah, maybe more competition for his places might mean that his cameo appearances off the bench are a bit more fruitful. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, he gets a six. Whereas in Die, I'll give a seven. As I say, another very good goal. Um, Lovely bits of ball control and dribbling as we're so used to as we're so used to seeing. He gets a seven. I'd probably give him a little bit higher if he'd gone in a little tougher on Bruno Fernandes after that horrible incident. Obviously, he more than stood up for himself, shoving away at the Portuguese international and then both getting booked. But yeah, just I don't really want to get into it too much, but just utterly vile from Fernandes, especially in a pre-season game. A really poor lack of sportsmanship, but it hardly comes as a surprise when it comes to him, does it? And then finally moving into the forward position, Beto was obviously kind of singled out a little bit by David Moyes in the pre-match comments. Didn't quite produce a performance that was a suitable response, to be honest. It was mostly I'd describe as a clumsy performance. Caught offside a few times. Put himself about a little bit more and worked hard, but just didn't really have much of an impact on the game, did he? And I'm very undecided on who I want to be starting at the start of the season. I guess I imagine Better will probably be preferred to Barry at first, but hopefully we get more glimpses of Barry. Uh, and he gets to make more of an impact than he has in pre-season, really. I think when he came on, him and Anyango were both kind of given thankless tasks, I think. Anyango being played out of position, of course, and the way we played once we moved back to the more unfamiliar five-back system, Barry was very isolated, I think, and mostly just given long balls to chase or instructed. We're trying to hold up play against the likes of Harry Maguire, who are obviously very big physical defenders. So yeah, that was a bit frustrating. Just another word on a sub as well. Obviously, Adam Asnu, we got a chance to see him in an Everton shirt for the first time, and I thought he looked very sharp indeed. To be honest, I think definitely still a bit raw, but obviously that's to be expected. Um, but yeah, a young lad with a lot of promise and seems to definitely offer a lot going forward in particular. So I mean, obviously we know just how much Mikalenko seems to lack in his game, so that's definitely encouraging. So yeah, I think that pretty much rounds off this video. Please leave a like if you enjoyed. Comment below giving your ratings for the players and what you've made of pre-season as a whole. Obviously, we're going to round it off against Roma on Saturday, and then finally the season can restart once again. And obviously, with the transfer rumours ramping up even more of late, I'm sure the excitement is definitely starting to build. It certainly is for me anyway. Subscribe to the Toffee Beast channel for more Everton content, and we will see you in the next video. Up the Toffees.